the opening of our regularly scheduled meeting of Norton Conservation Commission. It is Monday, October 7th, 2024, and it is now 6:30 p.m. And as is required, we will begin the meeting by reading our preamble, required because this is a remote meeting. So go ahead, Dan. You are frozen, Dan, so I don't know if you help Dan. I guess Dan's reconnecting, so I think in the meantime, we will go ahead and read the preamble. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 bill, extending several COVID-era policies and programs by allowing virtual meetings to continue from March 31st, 2023 to March 31st, 2025. This meeting of the Norton Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the end of this agenda. Members of the public attending this public hearing/meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by raising their hand virtually or pressing *9 if participating by phone. No in-person attendance or members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceeding in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Norton Cable website an audio or video of this recording, transcript, and other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So Dan, I don't know if you were able to reconnect. Are you there currently?
He is not, but
so tonight's members.
Joe Carvalho has just entered. So, for instance, we still have a quorum.
I'm having some video problems, but I am here.
Okay. All right. So members participating tonight are myself, Julian Kadish. Dan will likely be back. He seems to be having connection problems. That's Dan Pearson, our clerk. We have Mark Fernandez, Paxton Hallshaw, and Joe Carvalho. Unable to attend tonight is Tom Vest, and it appears that Lisa Carrozza, let's see, who am I missing? Just Tom Vest and Lisa Carrozza are unable to participate tonight. And we have our director, John Thomas, and our assistant, Megan Harrop, also participating. For members of the public that may not have been aware of how we reorganized our agenda, we are starting initially with any projects that have requested continuation. And I don't think we have any on tonight's agenda, but we had two previously. They're still active.
Yes. So we had October 28th was the 250-1163 for TPC, the notice of intent. And then until November 25th, we have 250-1161 per 171 West Main Street, which is the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. So those are the two projects that are lingering, and we'll be getting them for at least one of them for the next meeting. So,
okay. So we will get to our continued public hearings in a moment, but we have our draft minutes of the 23rd of September to review. And I guess the only question I had, and it may not be, I mean, we have attending that last meeting, we had a full board, but, in looking at the voting group,
I don't think Joe was at the last meeting.
Joe was not here last time.
all right, so then Joe needs to move to the absent column in the attendance.
Okay.
That was the only caveat, because I didn't notice him voting at all. So, all right, so that's the only thing that I noted. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I don't think you can make a motion to approve these minutes because Joe can't approve them and Dan's
Ah.
not fully in the meeting.
All right, well, that makes it easy. We will, table them.
Dan just connected or reconnected. Dan, you there?
Yeah, sorry, but yes, I don't know what I accidentally hit the X button, and then I've been trying for a few minutes now to get back in.
Okay, well,
but I
did you
am
have
here. Let me
did you have any
just,
questions about the minutes? We're going over the minutes right now. Did you have any questions about those?
No
Okay.
questions.
All right, so then, for
No
instance,
questions.
looks like the 4 members can vote on the meeting minutes from the 9:23 meeting.
All right.
To approve the minutes of the
Motion to-
10:22 meeting.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Mark, second by Paxton. And Dan, if you're still there, how do you vote? And along with Paxton and Mark?
Yes, aye. Can you hear me? Aye.
We got, yeah,
Aye.
okay, we got it. And Paxton and Mark?
Aye.
Aye.
And I will vote an aye, and will note Joe as an abstention. But, yeah, Joe is still here. Okay. All right, so that deals with minutes. Any comments on enforcement violation? Anything new about those?
So, like I said last time we had our meeting, 92 East Main Street's going through the process of being rehabilitated and restored. So we're gonna wait till the spring on that one. I've talked to the 258 Plain Street folks. They're still waiting to, I guess, figure out what they want to do with the property before they move forward with the restoration. They know that it needs to be done. They understand the whole entire restoration work that needs to go out there. They're just waiting to get back to me. They said hopefully, by next spring they can have something in place. The YMCA, I actually informed them last week that we need to pick up the pace on this restoration work and kind of thing of that nature. So I told them that I'm looking for something the next meeting, which is October 28th, because the work occurred about 2 months ago. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. I haven't heard back from them, but if they don't show up or they don't provide us anything by the 28th, then I'm gonna opt to the commission to issue an enforcement order, so that way they can make the right necessary actions and understand the severity with kind of this enforcement policy that the town has to follow. So that's it for updates on enforcement and violation notices.
And in this section, we have a time slot for any public comments from members of the audience who want to bring up any issues with regard to conservation of the Wetland Protection Act. And if there are no questions, I think we can move on. If there are questions, just take your mic off mute and ask them. Otherwise, department updates.
So we just received some updates to this. I guess there's been a lingering kind of Shipak landfill kind of status thing with the I guess the feds and the state. So that all got handled through the legal court system. So the town is one of 12 entities that needs to pay a source of some money to I guess as part of the settlement case. So that's being handled by the town and their attorney. So that's being processed this month. I'll let you know how everything else works out with that, but it's just It's just, it kind of happened like 5 or 6 years ago. So, we're just
Yeah,
kind of dealing with that now.
I guess I got a question about that because
Mhm.
it was my understanding that it became town property with no liability to the town. Had been in private hands. And the town accepted it only because, it was partly an estate issue and the federal people needed a proper way to proceed with the remediation. So what kind of obligation does the town have financially?
Financial obligation, well, all in all, the whole entire sum of money is well above $1 million, but the town has to pay only a fraction of that. I think it was thousands of dollars versus the hundreds and thousands of dollars that the town of Attleboro or the city of Attleboro needs to pay. So I don't know all the inner workings of it because it was kind of before my time, but all I do know is that they finally, the legal court system and the attorney figured out some sort of, I guess, settlement case, and I wasn't involved with any of the information or any transactions that went in, but I just want to let you know that it's going to get settled, and there's going to be no need for restoration or rehabilitation of the wetlands that were exposed to, I guess, significant damages or impacts.
Yeah, I guess the only liability the town would have assumed, and I don't even know if it applies, is whether or not the town issued a permit to the Shapaks to put fill in the wetland. Because all of the fill that went there, I know that area accepted the Thompson Chemical Fire debris, and then Shapak apparently made the agreement to accept material from Nuclear Metals and although it might have been TI at that point, Metals and Controls, I think it was. So I don't know, just as long as it's not an obligation with regard to the restoration work itself.
Yeah, so it's a settlement agreement that no restoration work needs to happen or occur. That's what I understand from what I've read through it so far, is that the state's gonna take on the money and they're gonna basically pursue whatever they need to do to fix or resolve the situation how they need, however the state wants it. They're basically fining all these parties. And that was the settlement that we pay the feds in the states, this sum of money in collaboration for all the damages that were caused by as part of this process years and years and years ago.
Does Mike have a handle on this issue? Because I might.
He does have a handle on it. It's been, on his desk. I haven't had any handle on it. So
Just out of my own curiosity, I mean, Shapak is the reason why I'm on this commission, because because of the radioactivity there. So I'll at some point drop in on Mike and try to get the details, because I'm puzzled, because I know that with regard to the town taking title of that property, that there was not, I mean, that was part of the agreement with the federal government, is that we were not going to be held liable financially. So I have to see what is the source of this liability, and whether or not somebody just forgot and are not reading the agreement properly, or what. Because otherwise, nobody in town would have said, yeah, we'll take title.
yeah, I don't deal with title agreements and things of that nature. I know that the select board is in charge of all those things, and unfortunately, I don't think it is even conservation land that the portion that the fines are being, because it wasn't entitled to us, it was entitled to the town manager and the select board. So my
Right.
guess is it's their land and they're handling this situation the way they need to handle this situation at their discretion. And because it wasn't, that was none of the fees or anything were coming out of the Conservation Commission to pay for the lawyer and everything like that. So
I understand, but the town agreed to take title because everybody was wringing their hands about how to proceed with the legal process. And the town was willing to facilitate that by taking title if the federal government would relieve the town of the liability of what was in that site. And that was the agreement that was struck. So I have to see what is the root of this financial obligation.
So I was sent over a bunch of information I can forward over to you, Julian. So that's what I'll do is I'll forward all that information over to you. I'll actually put it up on the Google Drive too for everybody.
John, quick question for the record. Property address?
Off the top of my head, I can't give it to you.
Good.
Uh,
I'm not too familiar with the site. That's why I'm asking.
well, if you go down,
Union Road.
Union Road and
Super fun site.
you see the monstrous Attleboro landfill.
It's a super fun site?
It is, but it's just, it starts at the Attleboro line and comes toward the Norton side until you get the old Chapac property. I can't remember, I'm assuming the Chapac property is still there, the house. But the
That
house,
would be the area that's all fenced off and cordoned off, and then we have the house on the other side of the street.
Yeah, it's like a garage.
Garage.
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's all fenced in, but, you know, the whatever contamination there was confined to the fenced in area because the house, even the well, was tested and there was no contamination of any kind there. All right, I guess that's, Chapac, and, I will follow up on that. Next item is the continued public hearings. First item is file number 250-1162 Zero Hill Street. As I recall, there were no outstanding issues, and the intent was to close and then later act on the orders of condition. Does that sound right?
That's correct.
So unless there are any questions from members of the audience, we can entertain a motion to close the public hearing for this file number.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Dan, seconded by Joe, for closing the hearing on file number 250-1162. So Dan, Paxton, and Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And Joe?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. We will take the orders of condition discussion at a later time. File number 250-1165, 225 South Worcester Street was an ANRAD hearing. And I believe this is the same situation where all of the data was discussed and this was held to close now. So unless there are any questions, we will again proceed with a motion to close the hearing for file number 250-1165.
Make a motion to close hearing number 250-05.
1165.
1165, sorry.
Motion by Joe, seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Mark. Again, roll call vote, starting with Dan, Paxton, and Mark.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And Joe?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, the motion carries. And again, we'll deal with the ANRAD, ORAD later. We are now at our first new public hearing. It is file number 250-1166 concerning 257, 259 Mansfield Avenue, notice of intent. And why don't I just allow the representative of the applicant to introduce the nature of the project? Who would that be?
Sure. Absolutely. Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Matt Bombasi with Bowler Engineering, representing the applicant, who is NES Group, who represents the property owner, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers.
So I think you can probably share your screen to bring up the plan.
Sure. Sure. Can you guys see that okay?
We can.
Cool. I apologize for all the color. I hope it's just not making anybody seasick, but I wanted to try to show everything as clearly as I could. The property at 257 Mansfield Ave, just south of the town line with Mansfield. Right now, there's two existing dwellings on the property. One here at the front, one here at the back. There's some pole storage, some gravel storage area, and some driveways. This is actually just south of their headquarters in Mansfield, which is this property to the north, and they're looking to do a new training facility here. The resource areas on the site are primarily bordering vegetated wetlands. So this kind of channel wetland through here is a bordering vegetated wetland along an intermittent stream. There's also bordering vegetated wetlands delineated here, kind of along the tree line, up gradient of the Norton Reservoir, and then again along the reservoir here on this side. The project proposes an 8,500 square foot training facility. I'll speak in general terms, just as far as the work they're intending on doing is a little bit interesting. So the electrical workers need the training facility for electrical workers. So what they'll be doing here is training folks who climb poles and do those types of activities safely. So certainly something I'm not qualified to handle, but they train them here for folks who are. So it'd be an 8,500 square foot building. It would have some classrooms and office space in it, and there'd actually be an interior space where they'd have some utility poles for climbing and training. They'd also propose to have a few kind of gravel areas with utility poles here in the back and here at the top north, which would have poles and again wires for their training. Those poles, wires, electrical equipment are all, I guess, full equipment. There's no actual electricity or electrical equipment that might have oil or some other contaminant in it. They're all dry, but they're there.
I mean,
for
let me
training
just
purposes.
let me just stop you for a second.
Sure.
For the purposes of the hearing with regard to wetland protection, it's not completely clear exactly where the buffer zones are.
Oh,
So
sure.
maybe if you could point those out at this time so we know what we're
Yeah,
dealing with.
we'd be happy to. So here's the site plan with the buffer zones on them. So the orange line here is the 25-foot buffer from the wetlands per the Norton Conservation Policy. The green line here that wraps around kind of the building and through, that's the 100-foot wetland buffer zone under the Wetlands Protection Act.
Okay.
So in addition to the typical lighting, landscaping, landscaping, lighting, parking areas, they are proposing a new stormwater system. That stormwater system would primarily be collected in deep sump hooded catch basins and pre-treated by an isolated row and infiltrated within a large subsurface infiltration bed here at the front of the property. Soil testing's been done in that area to verify groundwater and soil types. So the majority of runoff from the parking lot and roof would go there. Runoff from this area at the rear where they're proposing the pole training area would be collected and pre-treated in a grass swale and down to a bioretention area at the rear of the property. The reason being there's a bit of topo coming down, so this can't be gravity fed to the front basin. I believe the stormwater design's been sent for peer review, which we're still awaiting. So happy, obviously, to address any questions or comments that come out of that review once we receive it. As far as wetland impacts, one item we want to note is we know that the commission has the policy for the 25-foot no disturb. We expect that's a policy for a reason. And we do have some, I guess, limit of work outside of that 25-foot buffer. Primarily the reason for that, the primary reason for that is there's some existing paved areas that exist in the 25-foot buffer. So here, this section of paved driveway here is within the 25-foot buffer close to the wetlands here in the front here. This structure in the back is, and then some other gravel and driveway areas here. So there's about 2,130 square feet of impervious area in the 25-foot buffer we propose to remove entirely. In addition, all the areas really within the 25-foot buffer, except for a few limited areas, are kind of maintained lawn area at this stage. The project proposes no impervious area in the 25-foot buffer. We looked at a few different iterations with the applicant and architect, and obviously we wanted to make sure they had a building footprint that met their needs for the training facility, but also cautioned that the commission would take the 25-foot notice or buffer seriously, and in particular proposing impervious area within that buffer would likely be frowned upon or discouraged. So we have no impervious area within the 25-foot buffer. Again, the limit of work will extend outside of that at locations for the removal of existing structures. As far as permanent disturbances within the buffer, no real natural vegetation would be disturbed in that buffer. There'd be some limited grading around the permanent development and for the removal of existing paved structures. And I think the only real permanent feature proposed in the stormwater buffer would be this grass swale along the side of the gravel drive, and I think we have a pipe outlet out the rear. The project would propose to plant areas outside the development limit with a conservation wildlife seed mix, and I think a lot of the 25-foot buffer would be allowed to just kind of naturally revegetate over time. It wouldn't necessarily be maintained as lawn area as it is today. In addition to stormwater controls, erosion controls are proposed and included in the site development plans, which include perimeter barriers, temporary measures during construction for settling basins and swales. The project does disturb more than 1 acre of property, so it would be applicable under the EPA construction general permit, and that's what would be prepared prior to construction. That said, I'll pause there. I hope I covered everything clearly, but happy to jump into more detail on specific items if the commission would like.
Just for clarity, that there's a structure now right adjacent the swale in the back that is proposed to be moved or just demolished or
Removed, yeah.
removed.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's why the purple line designates limit of work. Is that?
That's correct. Yeah. So the purple line, we would remove this structure. There's some fencing and lawn area through here. Again, the limit of work here with the pavement to be removed in the buffer zone. So as far as proposed work in the 25-foot buffer, we would have like I said, the swale would sneak into that 25-foot no disturb where there's an existing lawn area and a little bit of minor grading outside of there. But in general, we'd hope to keep the 25-foot buffer just allowed to kind of naturally revegetate.
And that gravel area in the back, where you have the U-shaped section of poles, I assume that's to use lift trucks as part of the training, or it's not clear.
Correct. Yeah, I suspect they would have some U-trucks coming back there again for training purposes. So have the workers up or the trainees up in the bucket truck and working on the poles.
Mm. How often do those trucks have little catastrophes of oil and grease and everything else?
Hopefully very, very regular. I mean, they may be maintained relative to like a similar other vehicle. So hopefully not too often. There wouldn't be any, I guess, electrical equipment or anything here that would be unordinary other than just vehicle travel. So I know often transformers have oil in them and things like that. Nothing like that.
So John, you had a lot of comments, but I mean, it's my sense, at least some of them have been addressed. Is that your sense too?
Yeah, I mean, there are some areas that I noticed on this plan that are shown. The aerial shows it actually better because you can kind of see what's out there, what's existing. But there are areas that, are within the 25-foot, I guess, buffer that could be restored to natural vegetative cover. I mean, with the extent of I guess the existing driveway that's not going to be part of the project. It's actually outside of the proposed limit of work that they have, but it's within very close proximity to the wetland, and also within, I guess, kind of near the house that's existing there. It's between that and the stream. And then also near closer to the street, it looks like there's the driveway that comes in off of the road, but it doesn't look like they're going to be utilizing any of that pavement. So I guess my question is there any way that we can propose removing that pavement as part of, allowing for them to work within the 25 as an acceptable use for the commission? Because they'd be removing a lot of impervious, but replacing it with vegetative cover, which is kind of the intent of the 25-foot buffer area that the commission administrates. I just think that maybe that would be something that would be a, split on kind of allowing for some minor improvements going on in the 25, but also removing some of the old impervious that's in the 25 and restoring it back to a more naturalized setting to kind of meet the 25-foot established criteria.
So Matt, I think you did mention that was the intent. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah, and I'm looking at it, I see what John's speaking of. I think we maybe just have the limit of work misdrawn on this exhibit, but I think the intention would be to remove all of this pavement that's within the 25-foot buffer and allow it to naturally revegetate.
Yeah.
So we are amenable to that.
Yeah, and you guys could definitely do that closer to the street. I mean, I think heading back, because it looks like you're grading there, like right there, yeah. It looks like it kind of goes off in that area. I mean, if you're not going to use that as a, an access point, I mean, it's gonna look very weird. But if you could revegetate restore that area, I think that would definitely offset a lot of the potential work that's happening in the 25. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I think we're amenable to that. We were hoping that the note that John just made would be the case. We want it to be sensitive to it. So where we have this existing impervious area, we certainly open to removing and restoring that and just allowing it to naturally revegetate.
Yeah, I mean, you outlined some of it, but I think what John's referring to is hidden under the trees.
Through here?
Closer to the stream. I think it hugs the stream underneath those trees. The existing driveway.
Got it. Yeah, we can review, but yes, we would be amenable to removing that.
Do we have a grading detail on this? And can you pull it up?
Like a grading plan? Yeah, I'll pull up the black and white one because it might be a little clearer than the color one. Yep, so just the general grading, the site does come off quite a bit from the road. So the road's 116, 117, and you get down to 110, so 6 or 7 feet below grade at the rear here. So this area, most along kind of the side of the building, would be a 3 to 4 foot fill condition, and then we would come back down to grade as we work the way back down to the rear.
So in our 25-foot areas, what is your grading plan?
So within, I'll pull up in this color exhibit. So if you can imagine it, so these darker kind of lines with the contour labels are proposed contours, and the orange line is the 25-foot buffer. So the grading plan within some off grading here at this turnaround within the existing.
And what are the pitches?
3 to 1. 3 to 1 as shown now. We could taper that out. We just wanted to cut it as short as we could from the wetland line.
My question to John is, do we feel that's a little steep for those areas?
It depends on what they're going to use for vegetative cover and what kind of topsoil they're going to use. I mean, I guess that's another question is, during construction and post-construction, it's going to take some time for that area to get stabilized. There are options where they could put jute netting down if they needed to keep it more solid during kind of, I guess, the establishment of growth on those surfaces. But otherwise, I mean, the other option is they could put a revetment wall up if they want to, but they're already doing that for a good portion of the extent that's going where the building is all the way into Mansfield. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I leave it up to the commission to think if that's, needed for that area out back with the gravel lot.
I mean, it seems a little steep. I think we need some type of plan in this area.
Well, I don't know,
Can we re-
it's 3-1, it should have no problem holding. If it were 2-1, then it would really, you know, need more attention. But, I don't know, I mean, my sense is 3-1 can be stabilized without any problem. Somebody else had a question.
I was just gonna say, could we revisit the, north of what we're looking at right now? Can we just see above that? And I guess there's, you know, is there any is there any chance of moving the proposed structure to the north where it's a little farther from the wetland, or is that not possible?
That's not gonna be possible, Dan. They're maxed out with the other infrastructure and improvements that they have. You know, the thing that we've always talked about with conservation is, you know, we'd rather have the buildings closer to the wetlands than the parking lots because the water's gonna shed. It can be better controlled off the building than it is off the parking lots. And we did that for a couple projects so far, that we've permitted through the commission, and the peer reviewer that we had agreed on that. So, I understand, you know, your thoughts with the building, you know, being closer to the street, but we also need to take into account of zoning and other local, jurisdictional, regulatory requirements.
There's a question about, what type of sedimentation controls you're gonna be using and where.
Sure, yep.
So we don't use straw bales, by the way. We use either silt socks or straw wattles.
Okay.
So just to make a note on the plan, I'm okay with this kind of development, with 8-inch compost socks. If you can spec that out, that'd be great. Otherwise, I would suggest using some silt fence and some 6-inch compost socks, just as a temporary measure there. But that's just my thought on these. We don't use straw wattles. I mean, sorry, straw bales.
Yeah, understood. As proposed, I believe we have the straw bales and silt fence, but obviously we're amenable to the compost silt sock. We respect that a lot, or the straw wattles. I think I find the silt socks a little heavier duty, so I might think that's preferred, but I think we're open to either.
Now, as far as delineating the limit of work during construction, are you gonna do that with orange construction fence, or to make sure that, because you got a lot of fill there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think we'd be open to that if that was a request of the commission. That in general, the entire limit of work is going to have the silt fence and silt sock around the perimeter. So we might expect that delineates the limit of work. But if orange construction fencing is obviously a little bit more visible to the eye, so we'd be open to that if that's something the commission feels strongly about.
Well, it's not actually something we normally request, but this is a very tight site, and you're doing a lot of stuff right up against the 25. You know, the requested no disturb zone. So, you know, I can see machine operators just rolling over a small silt sock or something like that, but they might hesitate to back over an orange construction fence.
Yeah, sure. That's a good point, and I hopefully they won't back over a silt sock. I think it's our job to make sure they understand that there's an order of conditions, and they have to be very careful, close to that, attention to that, or we'll be back in here for bad reasons, and we don't want to do that. So we'll certainly want to make sure the construction team's knowledgeable of what the restrictions are.
Well, you wouldn't be back here. You would have to face me, and you don't want to do that. I'm just letting you know.
The past, yeah, agreed.
You wouldn't like John when he's angry.
I believe it.
Any questions?
I'm just kidding. Of course.
No, Dan, it's true. You don't want me when I'm angry. It's fine.
We'll leave it at that.
He turns into the incredible hulking.
Do I turn into the Incredible Hulk? Is that what you're gonna say? Okay, thank you.
Well, I have one more. I would like to see a stabilization program for those areas. And anywhere where anything else is being built, are we working above the toe of the area or below?
Our grading and work would be above existing grade, so we'd be working, I guess, above it.
So there'll be no machine or no operator below the toe of any of these areas?
Not outside of the limit of work, no.
So my suggestion is to, in areas where you're going to remove or do any sort of light grading for restoration purposes or any grading, surface, scraping the surface, whatnot, is to put compost and sediment controls closer to the resource area. So like in the area where, I recommended that you guys remove additional pavement, put the sediment controls closer to the resource area.
Yeah, I think we'd be open to that. As I noted, the area, a lot of it within the 25-foot is maintained lawn right now, so that would give us more room to maybe lessen the slopes or to revegetate those areas. We were a little hesitant to show the limit of work to outside the 25-foot buffer, unless we had to, but where it makes sense and we can naturally revegetate those areas so that they're not a lawn seed anymore. Obviously, that makes sense.
Well, we just want to make sure that, for instance, whatever we approve coincides with the construction plans that are going to be, part of this, next phase pending any sort of issuance of an order of conditions. So that would be the next phase too. So prior to any sort of, pre-construction meeting or any construction going on the site, we would need those construction plans, and it's a lot easier if they jive with the permitting plans if we can do that.
How soon do you expect construction would begin on this?
I believe they own the property, so to be honest, I'm not 100% sure where the entitlement period is going to come up to the winter months. It might not make sense to get too far into it at that point, but I'd expect spring of next year at the latest they'd want to get rolling out here.
Well, I mean, that's the question about stabilizing during the winter as to whether you're going to try to do that. And I mean, you're going to be pouring a lot of concrete for at least for foundation, so that can be a challenge. So there is peer review yet to happen, as I understand it.
Yeah, we reached out to the peer reviewer today. We have not heard back from them. I'm going to call him tomorrow just to follow up and make sure that he's been receiving my emails. But our next meeting is on the 28th, and we cannot close this meeting or make a decision on it anyway, because I don't think we have a DEP number, right, Megan?
I don't believe we do, no.
You're talking about a file number? Because we have 250-1166 on the.
Oh, we do.
I
Yeah,
apologize, yes.
Okay.
But we still have to get feedback from a peer reviewer.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a matter of do you prefer continuation to the next meeting, which is the 28th, or the meeting after is the 11th of November? Oh wait, no, even that's Veterans Day, I believe. Is that right? So
that's correct.
So that listed meeting is going to be absent. So it's now, what day is Thanksgiving? Is that the 24th, or is it this year? Well, anyway, we can keep it simple by just continuing until the 28th of this month.
Thanksgiving's the 28th of November.
I think it would be easiest just to continue to the 28th, and we'll hopefully get a turnaround on those peer review comments, and I can send them over to Bowler, and Bowler can respond back to them, and hopefully in that time frame from now until the 28th, we'll have kind of a understanding of what is outstanding or is complete. So
So unless there are further questions, we can consider a motion to continue. And Matt, I'm assuming that that's acceptable to continue it to October 28th.
Yep, yeah, that would be great. Appreciate it. If for whatever reason, the peer review wasn't ready by then, we'd be happy to request a continuance as well.
All right.
So, I guess any questions from the general public? Any questions from the general public before we move?
And you can either go to the reactions button, or is it reactions? Yes, reactions button and raise your hand, or you can just take your phone off, your mic off mute. But I don't seem to see any or hear any questions, so I think we can now consider that motion to continue this hearing for file number 250-1166 until October 28th. And I think, Dan, you made that motion, is that right?
Yes, please.
And now a second.
Continue file 1166.
Yep.
Second.
And so we have a motion by Dan, seconded by Paxton. And Dan, Mark, and Paxton, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And Joe?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So the motion carries. So Matt, we'll see you or someone else on the 28th.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
You bet. And then we have a determination 1142. I mean, this is something that has been before us before, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one, and I've seen this happen a little bit before. What they're trying to do, and what the applicant is trying to do, is to get a better handle and understanding on the jurisdictional status of the stream in question that was not, I guess, confirmed with the previous ANRAD and ORAD. So in light of that, because we were in a drought, so we couldn't make that determination anyway when they did the ANRAD. So what I told them was at the time was that if they came back with a RDA to come back when we weren't in a drought, we would be amenable to this RDA, which is what they're submitting today. So Chris, I'll let you take it away with kind of your analysis and your evaluation of the stream out there.
Sure thing. Well, good evening, folks. My name is Chris Frattaroli. I'm a wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting, and I will go ahead and share my screen right here, if that's all right. All right. Wait, yeah. Looks good. All right. So our site here is Lot 1A on South Washington Street. South Washington Street being up here at the north of the property, obviously. I believe this is Lopez Drive across the street, if that gives any sort of orientation to you folks. But John's correct. Yep, we do have a mapped perennial stream in the southern portion of the site here. And due to the fact that, again, as John said, we were in a drought when this ANRAD was originally before you.
Yeah, let me just interrupt just
Sure.
for orientation for members of the commission, because they're not going to recognize that map. This was originally before us as a proposal for a parking lot for Amazon vehicles. And then subsequently, and I guess that got nixed by the planning board. And subsequently, a proposal came back for a garage and just a few parking spaces. So just to refresh members of the commission, you probably recall it there. So sorry for the interruption, but
No worries. Good context. Thank you. Is our site aerial here. There's now a parking area up in the northeastern portion pursuant to that prior order of conditions that you folks issued. And ultimately, I think this is a pretty straightforward request. We do these fairly often, and what you'll see along here is that stream we marked a couple of points for photos, and what we are doing here is documenting that the stream is intermittent. Regulations read essentially that at least, you can document a stream as not flowing over 4 days in any 12-month period during non-drought conditions, which was essentially the holdup the last time around. So we've done exactly that. We've documented stream as not flowing. So you'll see here photo point 1. This is just a kind of a selection of a couple of the photos that we included in the more thorough report that you have folks all received. And essentially what is documentation that this is not a perennial stream, that this is in fact an intermittent stream because it is not flowing over 4 days. And, we've seen the site a handful of other occasions. It's been more than just 4 days, but that's what our documentation consists of. John and I met out there and took a look at it, and I think we were on the same page on that for the most part. And so this is the nature of the request in front of you folks tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about it.
Well, actually, John, you can elucidate it. Obviously, if this were a flowing stream, it would fall under the Rivers Act. Is that, but being intermittent, it does not? Is that a fair statement?
That's correct. So this is where it becomes, well, I guess this is where it is where we currently stand, is that there are two separate things happening, I guess, for this property, is that the applicant's requesting to make a determination on whether this stream is perennial or intermittent. And, from what I can tell and what I've seen is that it doesn't seem to meet perennial status. It didn't seem to meet perennial status when I first met the applicant out here there's 2 years ago to take a look at it. But, obviously, with a drought or without a drought, it doesn't seem to have the perennial indicators and bankful indicators that would constitute a, riverfront area or mean annual high water line for a perennial stream. So for this site, I would say that, it's okay for the commission to vote in favor of basically this stream meeting the intermittent status. The next thing, I guess, would be for, the applicant to, once this RDA goes through, is to, have a powwow with him and his consultant, Goddard Consulting, and discuss the next steps for the current status of the project site that is currently in development, because that section of the project site would need to come back to the commission either through an amendment or a new filing, depending on kind of what they're going to be proposing. So that's not on the docket for this evening to discuss that, but I'm just putting it out there for the record. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. So I'm comfortable with this stream being classified as intermittent based on my expertise and field observations out there and seeing it firsthand.
But it was my recollection that the development activity proposed in our last hearing doesn't come out to this extent.
It does not.
Okay.
So that's why I'm getting at to it, is that if the applicant would like to amend their permit and request to, I guess, move their limit of work or reestablish any sort of work, they're either going to try to see if they can get an amendment, but my understanding is that any change to limit of work would require a new filing. So that's kind of what the state requires, is that if you're going to change the limit of work to any sort of project, you have to go through the process of refiling. That's one of their biggest things, because changing the limit of work, expanding it, increasing it, is considered a major change. So
Right.
any sort of major change would require a new filing.
But I thought the prior requested project went to the full extent possible because they went up to the allowed wetland boundary, plus, within the buffer.
So
Yeah.
they were, from what I recall and what I know for this project, is that they were conservatively taking off of where the extent of the stream was in the event that it was riverfront area. So they were being conservative in their approach to try to stay away from the riverfront entirely with the original design, because they couldn't make that designation or determination back when there was a drought to basically state whether the stream had perennial or intermittent status. So what they did was they decided to go through with a project up to the 200, but not cross over into it. So that was the intent of their project. Now is that if this stream is not perennial, then they basically can go and file a new application if they want to present or propose new work, I guess, closer to the stream, because it doesn't meet that designation. And from what I can tell is that this stream does not meet perennial status. I'm confident with that. It's just now the next steps for the applicant are to go through the right steps to kind of, I guess, if they're looking to propose more work, or they're looking to propose a new use, or they're going to have a project change. I mean, that's all going to come in. They have to basically close out the previous project and reopen a new one, or roll it into a new one, as to kind of what they're going to do. So, they're going to have an engineer, they're going to have a wetland scientist. There's going to be a little bit more work that they have to do to propose new work out here. So, that's kind of what's on their plate. And I leave it up to Chris and the owner of the property to just make those decisions and come back to the Conservation Commission with a plan of action of what they want to do.
All right, I guess I misunderstood. I thought the boundaries previously were established by known wetland boundary, and
The wetlands were confirmed under the ORAD, but the stream status in the riverfront area was not. And they were conservatively just saying that it was perennial as part of their proposed project, because they couldn't make that determination, because when they came in, it was in a drought. And that's one of the parameters, is that if it's in a drought, you can't discredit whether a stream is perennial or not.
all right. So I guess we'll hold our breath and wait to see what comes through the door.
Yeah, so for this, I would say that, the commission could ratify and issue a negative determination stating that the resource area as it currently stands does not meet, or the stream itself was proven to meet the standards that Chris put up on the screen.
Can I just ask a question relating to that?
Mhm.
The regulations also say, notwithstanding that part 2A1A through C, letter A refers to essentially if the stream was demonstrated to be perennial on the latest USGS survey, that it would be considered perennial. What does the latest survey say?
Yeah, that is this map here. That's this darker blue line. Fortunately, I don't have an intermittent to compare it to, but this is shown as a perennial stream.
Okay, so if I'm reading the regulations correctly, though, that means that we would consider perennial.
Notwithstanding that, generally refers to, that may be true, but you can document it as such, as we've done here.
So there's always been a classification as to what is the proper way to do it, because here's where it becomes kind of difficult to kind of make these determinations, is that it contradicts itself. Because if that was the case, why is it asking about claiming these visual observations? I guess that's my question. And that's why I would say if that was the case, is that if the state wanted us basically to state that, all streams with a solid blue line are considered on a USGS map are perennial, why doesn't it just state that? Why does it give us this opportunity to, for an applicant or a consultant to do these observations and present this to the commission for clarification? I guess that's my question. And that's been always a discussion item that I have, looked at, and I said, well, there's a reason why this is here. And the purpose of why it's here is to say that it's another option for the commission to take into consideration when it comes to, evaluating the actual correct status of a stream. Now, if this stream was flowing and it had a very defined channel, I would say, okay, we need to do it, again, and take a look at this at another time. But the fact that, for instance, the applicant has taken the liberties to follow this procedure, to credit, their observations and present them in front of us, I feel that, for instance, the stream is intermittent because I've seen it 3 times, over the last 3 years. So, and that was once in a drought and twice not in a drought. And I have not seen it flowing like a normal perennial stream. So if the commission wants to, make a determination that it is perennial, I leave it up to them. But, I think that I'm comfortable with the notwithstanding, this language as it's said here, that it would be okay for the commission to accept that the stream is not being a perennial stream.
And so I
Alright.
guess you can understand my confusion, I'm sure. you-
No,
Very well done.
and that's the issue too, is that the Wetlands Protection Act has always been contradictory of itself in its entirety. And, my only question that I always ask whenever I look at this is that, okay, if that was the case, why do they have another item in here that completely, negates that first item that they're saying? And I guess my question is, why is that here? Why is this language in here? And it's in here for a reason. It's open up to, to kind of look at it even further. And if we looked at it even further and says, well, if it doesn't meet this, then maybe it was misidentified or not mapped correctly. Back in the 70s or 60s when they put these maps together. I guess that's the question.
Yeah, it would make sense that a local observation, a more timely observation of you and the applicant should trump any other determination made by the regulations. Of course, I'm just sort of trying to mull over how this all works. So why, the same questions you're saying, why would this be written this way?
Right.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing. These are the regulations, and it started with the legislation. And you can't necessarily stuff an environment into a bunch of text and have it come out exactly the same as the environment. So the field observations, as far as I'm concerned, is the source of our information for a decision. And we all feel comfortable. I mean, I'm being a little general here, but John, you certainly feel comfortable that this, based on field observation, is an intermittent stream. Correct?
Yeah, this section of the stream that is on this property, which is what we're confirming, this section is, from what I see out there, I would not classify it as being perennial.
Okay. So I'm comfortable with that.
It may start being perennial off-site, but I'm not, that's not part of this, request.
Okay. So any questions from anybody in the meeting? Because it sounds like we have enough information to close and make a determination of whether this is a well, following it, this is neither a positive or negative, or
So
this. Tell me which category this is for the decision,
I'd have to look at it and actually, hold on, give me 1 second.
because it's not necessarily a -3.
No, it's not. We don't do these much often, so.
Agreed. Well, while John is looking that up, I think we can consider a motion to close determination number 1142.
I can make that motion.
All right, Paxton makes a motion to close, and we're looking for a second.
Second?
Second by Mark. Roll call, starting with Dan, Mark, and Paxton.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And Joe.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, so So John,
It's gonna be 5, sorry. It's a -5.
all right, and, you have the text there, if you could just read it out for us?
Yeah, it's, the area described in this request is subject to the jurisdiction of the act since the, well, hold on one sec. I take that back, it's not 5.
Chris, do you want to tell us which number it is?
Yeah, Chris, you wanna tell me what number it is?
Frequently, we see commissions do it as a -3, just stating that there is there's a portion of this site that would otherwise be riverfront area that is not subject to the riverfront area jurisdiction. I'm not sure if every commission does it the same way, but for all intents and purposes, that's what we usually see.
I would probably put it as 5 and say no work is included, and then, basically state this permit issued permit, clarifies or confirms that the, on-site stream is intermittent, something along those lines.
All right, so we'll do a -5 and provisionally, if in closer examination, it's found that it needs to be a different negative category, we can revisit it next meeting and correct it. I'm assuming you're not gonna have a crush of activity that is gonna interrupt your stream of work there, Chris,
It'll
so,
be all right.
I think we can entertain a motion that, this will be a negative determination indicating that filing of a notice of intent is not required in category 5.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mark, seconded by Paxton, and Joe, Paxton, and Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
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 And Dan?
I,
And I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. There once was a time when we used to sign these things, but not now, so,
Not yet.
not yet, oh
We
yeah,
won't find out till March 2025.
okay. I can
Well,
wait.
thank you, folks. Have a good night.
You
Thank you,
bet.
Chris.
There are no certificates of compliance on our, agenda, but we do have, both an order of condition and an ORAD. First, order of condition is for, first item is file number 250-1166. No, that's wrong. File number 250-1162, 0 Hill Street, referring to the 30,000 square foot building and, laydown area.
So just to kind of give everybody a heads up, the only things that have been modified, were the red text that I put on the Google Drive. So just so that way we're aware, if you're looking at it, those items were, I guess, ironed out between the, Bowler Engineering and myself. So those items were, I guess, modified, and I'm comfortable with them. And it would seem that, Andy Platt from Bowler's comfortable with it as it is, and they have provided us updated plans. So we have those, and we're gonna put those on as record. I don't think we put them on the Google Drive because we got them today, so I can, if anybody's curious, I can, show you guys if you need them.
The findings section is generally unique to the project, so that's straightforward. The other modified one that came up is item 11, I guess, in the construction requirements. And, then after that, I think it was in the site stabilization section, it's item 24. A and B are unique. And then 31, the November deadline is in there as modified. I think that's all.
Yeah, they were minor, but you know, we did have a conversation.
Questions, comments? If not, we can consider a motion to approve the orders of conditions for file number 250-1162 as submitted.
I can make that motion.
Second?
So we have a motion made by Paxton, seconded by Mark, to approve the orders of conditions for file number 250-1162 as submitted. So Dan, Mark, and Paxton, how do you vote?
Aye.
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 And Joe?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. The motion carries. And we have a short order of resource area delineation for file number 250-1165 concerning 225 South Worcester Street. Any comments or questions? I'm assuming the site plan is referenced in the, well, you do have a,
So the site plan is always referenced on the form. It's a requirement. So that will have the date and the information on there.
yeah. All right, so not too complicated. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, sure. To,
Approve the ORAD as submitted?
approve the ORAD as amended.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Motion by Dan, seconded by Mark. Mark, Paxton, and Joe, how do you vote?
Aye.
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 And Dan?
Aye.
And I will throw in an aye, motion carries. And that ends my agenda. Any comments?
I have nothing. I really don't. I helped the LPS today clean up some trails in the rain. That was fun. We also went over to Johnson Acres and cut up a bunch of logs. Probably, I want to say 14 to 15 felled logs that are across the trail. So if anybody wants to, you know, work with me, I'm going to probably be putting together a plan for the next time that we have a collaboration of volunteers to kind of look and assess and evaluate some trail enhancements for that property. I might actually need to come back in front of us and talk about some boardwalks and stuff, because I think there's a couple wetlands on the property that might need a little bit of crossing, but we'll see. I'm going to try to stay away from the wetlands, to be honest with you, but we'll see what we can do with the trail improvements and trail enhancements that are out there. And yeah, that's the next one that's on the agenda for kind of, you know, next property to take a look at. So, but I guess other than that, I don't have much.
John, I was just gonna say, if you wanna send out an email when you're planning to go out and do some more work out there, I can't promise I can make it, but if I can, I'll try my best.
Okay, all right,
I'm
sounds
mostly
good.
done with my yard work for the year, so I'm itching to do more.
Okay, well, I'll try to coordinate something. Typically we had the Anilums folks help us today, and they, rain or shine, they'll be out there doing work, and they're go-getters. Let me tell you, they really helped us out big time. So there were probably about 15, 20 of them, just, you know, warm bodies helping us up cleaning the trails.
So you required a chainsaw for this or not?
So the chainsaw was under my supervision, and I was watching them chainsaw, and I made sure that they understood all the chainsaw rules and regulations that I administer. So
Well, what I was gonna say is I'm willing to haul around my small saw, which is, you know, like a baby toy thing.
mhm.
And I'll be glad to volunteer. It's probably gonna be next year because right now I'm in the thick of
Yeah,
stuff.
no worries. Yeah, the items that are usually, obviously, you know, this time of year is very busy for all of us. You know, with the new town hall moving everything, I didn't really have much time, but they asked if I could attend and show up. I said I can show up, but I really can't contribute much, unfortunately. I mean, I can supervise, but I can't really do much because I've got a lot of things that I still need to get a good handle on before we get going and moving. But besides that, you know, I will be probably sending out messages to the Open Space Committee and also the Conservation Commission and LPS, and just trying to engage more as we move forward and progress, because there's a lot of improvements and enhancements that could be done to a lot of these properties. And it's not just trails. I mean, it's, you know, just making sure that the existing picnic tables out there aren't in, you know, piss poor condition, or, you know, they're usable, you know, and they're not just flat on the ground. So, you know, that's kind of one of the things that I need to do better and just take better inventory on, and really itemize. But if anybody wants to help, you know, LPS has already, you know, reached out to me and said that, you know, they'd be more than happy to, you know, step in and be some of the property stewards. I have 3 or 4 of the members actually property stewards for a couple of our properties now. So if anybody else wants to, you know, do the same thing, just let me know. Because moving forward, I'd like to really give back to the community and try to do what we can do. Because we're not just the permitting crew here in Norton, we're also the, you know, Conservation Commission, and we're in charge of managing over 200 plus properties. So I want to get back to that, and I could use everyone's help and efforts. So
Yeah, I'd certainly be glad to be part of a crew, including bringing a chainsaw, but I need some lead time to.
yeah, no, definitely. And my policy is usually I need at least 2 months notice on anything. I can't just be told, you know, 1 week from when you're going to do something that to show up. So I made a little exception there, but it's okay. But moving forward, I'd like to kind of get a little bit of a lead time, 2 months, so I can try to engage others and see if they're able to kind of assist and, you know, spend a couple hours here and there going out and, you know, helping us clean up some trails and clean up some properties. So but besides that, I don't have much on my agenda. Hopefully that hurricane doesn't do much damage for us, Milton. So my parents are actually heading down to Tampa, so we'll see what the damage is. So
Your parents have property there?
yeah, my parents have property in Tampa, so yeah, they're heading down there just to see kind of what the damages are going to be. They should be there after the storm is over, but we'll see.
Well, I tell you, I have a friend who also has friends. I mean, he used to live in Sarasota, and Sarasota was really badly damaged by Helene.
Yeah,
Now it's dead center. I mean, Tampa's a little north of there, so but you know, these storms are uh, building up faster than it's been recorded ever, and the you know, the surface temperature of the Gulf is 88 to 90 degrees, which has never been that hot, and this is unprecedented what's happening.
it definitely is.
Well, I hope everything works out for your parents.
I hope so too. I really do. Hopefully there's not much damage. I guess the last storm they had over 18 inches in the garage. So we'll see. We'll see how much water they have in their garage this time.
Yeah.
All right. Our next meeting is the 28th. so I will have all these permits issued before then, so we can make the deadline, and I will see you guys then. And oh yeah, town meeting is the 21st. If anybody wants to show up and, you know, just be there.
Just quick question, not Conservation Commission, but Open Space Committee, any ideas of when we might be meeting?
So Megan's gonna send out another email, probably tomorrow or Wednesday, just engaging everybody, see when they're available, just to kind of get a sense. I actually need to talk to you too, by the way, about some other stuff. So I will, I'll reach out to you tomorrow. Or if you want to call the office, call the office.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just been busy and I apologize not following up on.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I just need to get in touch base.
Like Julian, in the spring, I'll bring out a little saw and hopefully help with, some trail work or something like that.
I have an axe.
Yeah. But,
I don't know, I think a chainsaw is safer than an axe these days.
Yeah, I'd say you're right, Julian. Oh yeah, and the LPS members did reach out to me, and they're very curious about all the chestnut trees that are over at Edith Reed. So they said they were very they wanted to get in touch with Dominic actually. So I was gonna see if Dominic would be okay with potentially get in touch with a bunch of LPS members because they're looking to maybe put some on their property too. Do you think that's something? Okay.
He would love it. Tomorrow, he said he's gonna be putting some in, I don't know, I think it was Attleboro. They have a spot where they want him to put, and then he's gonna replace a couple at Edith Reed on Thursday at 10 a.m.
Okay.
We'll be joining him at that time. I don't know if any of the LPS members I can work that out. But
Yeah, I can definitely let them know that you guys are going to be there. But I will definitely give the members that are interested in getting in contact with him. I'll give them his email and his contact information so they can reach out.
but it's already set for 10 a.m. on Thursday.
Okay.
We'll place a couple of those that died.
Well, I will let them know that if they're available and they want to meet him in person and have a discussion, then they can show up then.
Sounds good. All right.
All
great.
right. Thank you guys. All right. Good.
Thanks,
night.
everyone.
Right.
Take care.